me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root, root, root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Casey saw all the games, knew the players by their first names, told the umpire he was wrong all along, good and strong. When the score was just 2-2, Casey knew what to do, just to cheer up the boys she knew. She made the gang sing this song. Take me out to the ball game, take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root, root, root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
How you doing, everybody? It's your old pal, the Birdwatcher here. People call me BW for short. How are you doing? It's been several days since I've been on a live stream. I have been dealing with some health issues. Some have gotten better. Others have taken their place in recent days. But I'm just happy it's all going on during the off season and not during the Orioles' time out on the field. It's a good time to be ill, I guess. But I had to come on here for a couple of reasons. One, I just wanted to remember what it's like to speak. I haven't been doing a whole lot of that lately. And also, there's some news going on with the Orioles. At least a rumor. One that I feel is worthy enough to discuss. Mainly to ask questions to anyone who might be watching this right now. Craig Albernaz. Let me go to Jeff Passan's tweet here. This is tweeted out now about 20 minutes ago. Coming up on a half hour. The Baltimore Orioles are finalizing a deal. Finalizing, folks. A deal to hire Craig Albernaz as manager, sources tell ESPN. Albernaz, 42, was previously associate manager with Cleveland and was a widely sought-after candidate for open managerial jobs. He joins an O's team coming off a 75 and 87 team. He joins an O's team. I mean, Jeff Passan is basically saying, it's done. This is our new manager. It's done. I guess I didn't read this close enough because the way I took it, it was still in that, like, rumor stage. Like maybe advanced talks kind of a thing, but not final. But Jeff Passan is talking like it's a done deal that he is joining the team as the next manager, Craig Albernaz. Now, you might be wondering, even though it says that he's one of the highly touted managers available out there, well, then why haven't I heard his name during all these managerial rumors for the past couple of months? Because I have not. I have not heard his name. Guardians fans on X says it's a good get for us, but I don't know. How you doing, Chilo? Look, I don't think anybody knows. This is going to be his first, major league managerial job, and I am looking at his coaching career, which began about 10 years ago at the rookie level for the Princeton Rays, the affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays in the Appalachian League. Low-A Hudson Valley Renegades in the New York Penn League in 2016. 2017, he was the third base and catching coach for AAA Durham Bulls in the International League. Served as the High-A Bowling Green Hot Rods manager in the Midwest League in 2018. Albernaz has basically been moving around year after year, working his way up the ladder of coaching. So I'll give him credit for that. This is a 10-year stint at building up a resume to get to what I think is now the highest level he's been looking for, which is to manage a major league team. But I'm trying to read between the line, or not between the lines. I'm trying to gather whatever information I can on this guy to give me an idea of what we might be in for here. He was named the 2018 Midwest League Manager of the Year. He spent the 2019 season as one of the Rays' minor league field coordinators. In December, late 2019, he then moved from the Rays to the Giants. He was hired by the Giants to be their bullpen and catching coach. So that lasted a couple of seasons. That included the COVID year in 2020. And since late November 2023, so basically the 2024 and 2025 seasons, the Guardians has been the bench coach. He's been the bench coach for the Guardians. And actually, after the 2024 season last year, he was promoted to the role of associate manager. So I'm taking all this in, and I can see how he is on a natural progression to get a crack at becoming a major league manager. He's definitely done his time, and I wish I had a bit more of a record to look at in terms of all these stops he's made. Like, what have these teams done? What players maybe has he managed that went on to do bigger and better things? Don't really have any of that information. But what I will say is that I do think Cleveland, I feel like is a team a lot like us, in terms of where they sit in that payroll, can't think of a word. The boundaries of payroll between like the Mets and the Yankees and the Dodgers versus like the Rays and the lower paid teams. I think the Guardians and us are pretty comparable, right? So, but Cleveland, you look at the turnaround they had this past season, and they got back into the playoffs for a second straight year. If he's had anything to do with these things, that's good. And I think Cleveland has kind of punched above their weight, which is a sign of good coaching. I don't know how much that to credit to him versus the day-to-day manager or other coaches on the Cleveland staff, but as a bench coach, it just, I don't know. It sounds like he's building a very good resume, but man, oh man, I wish I knew more about this guy. I'm a little... Let's see who's here, by the way. Go Dodgers. All right, fantastic. Hey, BW, who is this manager we are signing? Wasn't even on the radar of managers before. Yep, I know. Bit disheartened right now about this move. They had said that MLB manager experience was high on their want list, and this guy doesn't have it. BW, glad you're feeling a little better and hope your current health issues resolve quickly. Thanks, Phantom. Unfortunately, one of the issues is chronic and will never, ever, ever go away. It's just a matter of... what do you call it? It's a matter of coping and just dealing with it. Guardian fans on X says it's a good get for us, but I don't know. I want to know for how long his contract is. Well, see, that's the thing I want to mention, and this I have to give credit to somebody in my Discord. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm going back to look right now. Phantom, are you here? Oh, Phantom's here. Yeah, Phantom, I'm with you in your theory that this could be the kind of manager that you might want to hire when you're a year away from a potential lockout and complete shakeup of everything going on organizationally with your team and around Major League Baseball. Maybe you don't want to commit to a guy like an Albert Pujols, which is going to demand like a long-term contract with lots of perks and whatnot, I would imagine, in there to accommodate a man of his stature, even though he doesn't really have the managerial record. He's a Hall of Famer, first ballot, slam dunk, one of the best pure hitters in our lifetime. So that's gonna be your resume to have a lot more negotiation room to sign with a potential team. But I did read that the Angels, who seemed like the natural fit for Pujols, that a relationship that is now done. The Angels and Pujols no longer are negotiating. So he's not going there. I don't know where he's going, but it doesn't really matter because apparently this is our guy. So let's focus on this. Who is this guy? Craig Albernaz. I'm just stick with me, folks, or don't. I'm just hanging out. First, I'll say this. He looks a little more rugged than Mansolino. I want a rugged guy. I want a guy that looks a little bit weathered. Looks like he's been through some things. Taking over. This is 7 minutes ago from CBS Sports, just coming out. Orioles hiring Craig Albernaz as new manager. Let's see what they're saying. The Orioles are close to hiring Albernaz as their new manager. He's 42, served last season as the Guardians' associate manager under Stephen Vogt. Prior to that, he was Major League Field Coordinator for the Guardians. In earlier years, he was bullpen coach for the Giants and also coached and managed at various levels with the Rays. As a player, the Massachusetts native spent parts of 9 seasons in the minors as a catcher within the Rays and Detroit Tigers organization. Now, I will give him this. I've always said I think catchers make the best managers. And sometimes catchers that stick around in the minors a long time without really cracking the bigs, those are even better candidates for managers because they're spending a lot of that time in the minors kind of knowing that they're just not quite good enough for the show, but, their mind is completely absorbed in all things baseball, so they are making good of their time in their 20s and early 30s, trying to break in to the show by, looking ahead to the future and saying, you know what, I love this game enough where I'd love to be a manager one day. And if it seems like Albernaz, from what I'm gathering, has sort of had his eyes trained on that, and being a catcher again, that to me is a plus. He got as high as AAA within the Rays and Tigers organization, but never did crack the bigs. Albernaz inherits an Orioles team that still has a strong core of position players, all in their 20s. However, the Orioles, despite lots of talent, finished disappointing. We don't have to talk about it. Yada, yada, yada. Those expectations cost Brandon Hyde his job in the middle of May. Mansolino managed a winning record over the remainder of the season. 60-59. Just call it a 500 record. But ultimately led decision-maker Mike Elias decided to go in another direction for dugout leadership. As such, the 2026 season brings with it a certain degree of pressure on both Elias and Albernaz to get the Orioles back into contending mode and win a playoff series for the first time in more than a decade. Elias's lack of aggressiveness in trading prospects for near-term roster needs and the lack of payroll investment from ownership remains impediments. Now that the Orioles are poised to name Albernaz to their post, the list of teams in need of managers for 2026 is down to 5. Padres, Braves, Rockies, Nationals, and Twins. By the way, Brandon Hyde apparently interviewing with the Nationals. So that's all I got from the CBS Sports article. I'm just going to go back to Twitter and type in Albernaz. There's probably some other, baseball minds out there that are weighing in on this, and I'd like to see what they think. So just type in Albernaz and see what we get here. Hey there, Doug. Oh, wow. How about this? The Durham Bulls have uploaded a video from, I don't know how many years ago, but it's Albernaz hitting a grand slam as a Durham Bull way the hell back in the day. Let's see. Rock Kabako says, heard today that Albernaz interviewed and one source thought he was a favorite. Jeff has it done. Yeah, Jeff Passan really is reporting this as though it's done while everybody else is saying, that they're in like advanced talks. Yeah, I know the only person we've had a formal interview with is Rojas. At least that's been, made public. I wasn't like, dead set on Rojas as the guy. All Yankees fans didn't like Rojas and wanted us to get him. We didn't want Rojas. Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I would have been disappointed, but I also would have said to myself, well, at least it's an upgrade from Mansolino. But if we're looking to try to get back into postseason baseball, I don't know if that's going to cut the mustard. Yeah, right now, again, it's people talking about this deal being finalized without anybody really weighing in with any sort of opinion. Here's one. Charm City Connection says, liking this guy more and more. Obviously, we won't really know what he brings to the table until we get into spring training, but Albernaz seems like a very team-first guy who gets along well with everybody. Interested to see how he adapts to the Orioles clubhouse and culture. Hey, look. Zach and Kevin are reacting as we speak. I've got 9 people watching. 9. They have 1,930. Holy shit, I'm getting more and more irrelevant as time goes by. Hey, folks. Jesus. No, one doesn't mean the other, but it still doesn't mean that the Oriole fan base wanted him. I don't think anybody is saying anything that's wrong here. So nobody should be feeling like attacked by other people's opinions, but I would agree with Chilo in saying that the Orioles fan base in general was not looking to Rojas as their, preferred choice. Especially if that's the first guy we interview and then we just go with him. I mean, like, let's talk to some other guys. I don't know. Right. So, give me a minute. I'm looking up more Albernaz stuff. Here's a theory, okay? By the way, forgive me, my sinuses are really in bad shape. Newsflash, part of the reason why I'm not streaming these days, these past week, 10 days. Here's a theory. It was that one of our problems was a lack of leadership in the locker room. Maybe this guy can help bring along some of our vets or rising young stars to be those leaders. Yeah, I'm cool with it. Look, I feel like we should go with one of the two. Either go with a brand new guy that shows promise where he can be a great manager, or go with a guy like a Bruce Bochy, a guy that has had the track record and the resume, and you know what you're getting with a guy like that. I don't want that kind of in-betweenish guy, right? Which I feel like what Rojas is. He's got a little bit of managerial experience. It wasn't all that impressive, and he's kind of been around and already had a crack. This is a brand new crack, so I can appreciate that on one hand. God, I just wish I was prepared for this news. I'm not prepared for this. I'm looking up some more info on him. Give me a sec. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, but Phantom was talking about how this could be a signing that is one of those, hey, we got a 1 year before potential lockout, so let's sign somebody that, isn't going to demand like a 3-year contract or something like a proven manager probably would, and then you wind up paying somebody through a strike season or strike shortened season or lockout season or whatever the frig is happening in 2027. We don't know yet. But it does make sense that if a team is trying to address a certain area, a big role of the team, like the manager obviously is, that maybe you want to go with a guy like this that, you give 1 year a crack to, and you don't feel so bad if things don't turn out, that you then wait for this collective bargaining agreement for next off season to eventually play itself out, and then you start looking around for now that all the dust is settled and you kind of have an idea how things are working, with the rules and everything, because all this managerial stuff, GM stuff, it depends heavily on whatever these people agree to in the next collective bargaining agreement, like it does with all these meetings where they change things like eligibility status for players, or just certain things where you have to sort of manipulate the roster and adjust based on whatever new rules. And it just would make sense that, you don't want to build up something and then suddenly it doesn't quite mesh with whatever the outcome of the next CBA is. Anyway, I'm probably boring the hell out of people and not really being very articulate about it either. Yes, Angels did that. What, with Suzuki? I hate, because the Angels were planning on going after Pujols, and I don't know why that relationship soured, but clearly it did. But that would also explain why a guy like Pujols might not get hired by anybody this offseason, because he probably would be the sort to demand something beyond a 1 year trial crack at managing. And a team might not be interested in that, thinking, well, we don't want to pay you in 2027 if you're just going to be sitting at home during a lockout. Anyway, if you're talking about Albernaz, there hasn't been any official signing yet, so we don't know what the length is, but I would assume it's a 1 year deal. And I would assume the Orioles have decided to go with somebody that's unproven or, hasn't had major league experience, because they're able to be like, dangle this kind of a job and say, we're only going to guarantee you the 1 year, because we don't know what's going to happen following this year. But if you do a great job, we're going to figure out a way to bring you back, but we're not going to commit to anything beyond that. And if we were to go after an established manager, they wouldn't go along with that. But somebody who's trying to crack in and get promoted to a job like this for the first time, I think they would go along with it. Does that mean Mancelino is gone? You mean like completely out of the Orioles system? I think there's a chance, if he wanted to stay on with the team in some capacity, but I don't know if he would want to accept that. The way he talked about what he did for the Orioles during like that end of season press conference leads me to believe that he wants to find a managerial gig somewhere else, or at least a path to get back to a managerial gig somewhere else, which doesn't look like would be the case if he stayed here. So I don't think he'll stay, but I don't think he's officially left yet either, if that helps. Are we happy with Henderson at short? Can't give him a move to second and get a young shortstop. How about Edward? I just think we've got a really nice infield. I know maybe Gunnar isn't the perfect mold for a shortstop, and I know Holiday defensively has had his issues. I mean, I know some people think Holiday makes more sense at shortstop where he developed, and that Gunnar should go back to third, and then Westberg would then move to second. I think that's the only other combination you can consider, but I mean, that's really it, because I think those three guys are everyday players. You're going to have to find positions for those three, and I think for now, the Orioles would rather just try to make everybody improve at the positions that they've already been sort of they've already solidified these positions over the past year and a half or so. To shake things up now, I think they would rather just try and improve these guys. But in general, I don't think we need another big like free agent kind of addition to the infield. Like even at first base, where we don't really have like a dedicated, this is our first baseman guy. O'Hearn is gone. Mayo is an option. Basayo saw some reps there late in the season. And there's been talk about Rutschman getting reps at first. I'll believe it when I see it. But I think with the lefty-righty combination of Mayo and Basayo sort of taking turns at first base isn't a bad idea. And if one of them kind of just takes the job and runs with it, we still have a way to get the other in the lineup. If Rutschman is like getting back to his usual self at catcher and you want to see them there every day, and Basayo is hitting really well and he's giving you a decent play at first base, and then Mayo could DH. Or if Mayo is playing defensively better than Basayo at first, Basayo could DH. Mayo could play first. Rutschman's still catching. So I think you want to find a way to accommodate these guys. These are our guys. A lot of them need to improve off of last season, though, or none of this is going to matter, which is why the coaching staff is so important. I really do believe the players here. Do we realize, folks, that we don't have a single Gold Glove finalist or a single Silver Slugger finalist on this entire team for the 2025 season? Not a one. Not one standout player on offense or defense. And you look at all the awards we were racking up for the years leading up to this one. We were winning Rookies of the Year. We had some Gold Gloves. We had some Silver Sluggers. We may not have had MVP or a Cy Young award, but we were getting there. Gunnar was like a runner-up, right? We got to get back there. And I feel like if we can figure out the philosophy for this team at the plate, change it, improve it, the talent is there. Card basically kind of confirming what I was talking about with the 1 year thing. Are we happy with Henderson? Okay, we just did that one. The O's have the capacity. We have always seen them in the hunt and improve. They must, especially at pitching. Yeah, the bullpen is I think if the Orioles can make a trade to get a pitcher, a starting pitcher, then there should be a lot of resources, financial resources, to basically rebuild the bullpen through free agency. Now, we don't need to go out and get 7 brand new arms, but we probably need 3 as a launching point, and one of them needs to be able to close, because Bautista is obviously not going to be able to do it next year, and we saw who our options were at the end of this season. None of them are legit options for a contender. So, yeah, we need to add a few bullpen arms, preferably, high leverage guys, including a closer, and that's going to cost some money. But I think if you find like a closer in that 12 to 15 million range, and then a couple of other really good relievers in that 8 to 10 million range, then you're spending somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 million, 45 million on your bullpen. And I think, when you look at contracts like Eflin and Sanchez coming off the board, that there should be money there to do that. And then again, if you find your starting pitcher through trade, then that would, that should be a realistic way of rebuilding this team to address our needs without like getting the payroll unrealistically out of control. I was actually putting together my list of position players and areas to address. I just posted it. The news broke about this manager right when I had posted something about my ideal additions to the lineup, and I'm going for broke. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Chilo is going to be 43. I got to blow my nose again, folks. I don't even have my. I got nothing around me to blow my nose. I'm sorry. My sinuses are a mess. Just stand by for a sec and allow me to go honk the horn here for a minute, okay? I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Nice beaver.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that. How you doing? Sorry. If I'm getting sweaty again. I'm ill. All right. I'm ill. Sinuses are an absolute mess and have been now for a few days. By the way, I haven't really been watching the World Series. I get weird like that sometimes. Like, I don't know. If I was calling it, it'd be a different story. But I don't know. I get depressed, I guess, because I just want my team to be in the big game, and watching like the Blue Jays and I don't know. It's fine. I'm rooting for Toronto, I guess. Sagano, that's the other. That's 15 more million off the payroll right there, Sagano. Forgot about him. So yeah, there should be money. There should be money to address all the needs we need to, and still, if the coaching staff can turn this team's attitude and their ability to be a little more fundamentally sound, I do think this team could bounce right back. And I think Toronto provides a pretty nice example. I mean, the Blue Jays last year had a down year, but they didn't exactly blow up their team, right? It was kind of teetering there for a minute whether or not Vlad Jr. would get extended or not. They did the right thing. They extended him. They went out and made a couple of additions, and some of them didn't even pan. Like Santander hasn't even really panned out for the Blue Jays. But the point is, I haven't watched them close enough or have seen what they've done from last year to this year to turn things around. But the fact of the matter is they turned things around, right? And now for back-to-back seasons, a team from our division is representing the American League in the World Series. And for my money, I've looked at how we played head-to-head against teams like Toronto and the Yankees up until this past season, this window of opportunity, the Rutschman Gunnar years or whatever. And to me, I feel like we can be just as competitive as those two teams. We've just lost our way here this past season. But I don't think it's too late to get back on track, right? Who was the guy we sent to the Padres? Get him back, he can hit. You talking about Laureano? I wouldn't mind Laureano coming back to the team. I would not mind that. But I kind of have a wish list that's a little bit crazy. Anybody want to hear it in terms of position players? Because I want two. Everyone's talking about we need to bring in a veteran position player that can help be a leader for this team, because clearly we did not have it in this past season, right? Like, you just felt it watching the team's attitude whenever we would fall behind or whenever we got on a losing streak. Just everybody's slumping. Nobody's picking anybody up, right? I say we go after two guys that have the potential to fill that role for us. Not one, just two. Because what if one ain't the right guy? Well, at least we got twice as good of a chance at finding that perfect person. And here are the two guys that I want to go get. And I know they're going to cost some money, but one of them is only going to be a 1-year deal, maybe two, because he's up there in age. He's coming off a down year. And I just feel like that's what the market is going to be for this guy. And I'm talking about, let's dedicate our DH spot to Marcell Marcell Ozuna, folks. This guy's like a 900 OPS guy when he's right, okay? And we need a right-handed bat in that, like, 4 spot in the lineup, a real, like, threat at that part of the lineup. I think he fits that mold pretty good. Now, I don't know what his, clubhouse, like, what he delivers to a clubhouse. I don't know. But I do want his bat. I do want that production. Normally, I'm not a guy that likes to just dedicate a spot to a DH, but if we get him for 1 or 2 years, I feel like he would validate dedicating that, because he can't play in the outfield. No mobility, no, you don't want him out there. But the dude can rake, right? And then the other guy I'm thinking of, who has already told the Yankees that he's not going to take the option to stay, and that's a guy that I love the versatility of being able to play both the outfield and first base, because I feel like those are the 2 areas where we're not quite sure how to cover both with an everyday player, like especially at first base. Because right now, first base looks like a Kobe Mayo, Sammy Basayo kind of platoon, right? And look, if both of these prospects develop into being the sluggers that we want them to be, then it could be one of the most dynamic platoons out there of young hitters blossoming in that position. But if they don't work out, or one of them doesn't work out, and the other is required to play more of an everyday thing, and you want another guy that can cover first base, but can still also play the outfield and play at a very high level, I'm talking about Cody Bellinger, people. Cody Bellinger. No, not Kyle Tucker. Not Kyle Tucker. I want that extra flexibility with Bellinger being able to play at first base. I also like the fact that, he's won MVP. I think he's won 2 MVP awards, or is it maybe an MVP and a playoff MVP award or something like that? He's got a couple of trophies, right? He's coming off a 7-WAR season. That's pretty elite. He's still, I believe, just turning 30. I think he'd probably demand a contract of like 5 years, $35 million a year. It's going to be like $170 million. Like, that's the cheapest, I would think. It's probably going to be in the 200, 250. It's probably going to be 6-7 years, maybe pushing 35 to 40 million a year, something like that. I don't think it goes over 40 if you look at everybody else and what they're making right now. Guerrero's contract, I think, is now 40 million a year for like the next 10 years. Bregman's on 40 million a year, or he would be if he were to not go back into free agency, but he is. I think Aaron Judge is right on 40. So 40 million right now for a position player. I think Juan Soto is the only one to go above that. That's kind of the cutoff. So I think for a guy like Bellinger, you're looking at somewhere in the 30s, right? It's just a matter of how many years. But 180. So that's okay for me. 180 is what I'm talking about. 5 years of 180, that is $36 million a year. I said $35 million a year. He wants an extra million a year, if that's the difference. 5 years at $180 million to me, that's worth it for me. That's worth the risk. And again, this guy has been on, like with the Dodgers, was he not on a World Series team back for the I mean, I know it was the COVID season, but whatever. He's been there. There's some good experience there with Bellinger. And plus, anytime you can take somebody that was a Yankee as a rental, basically. Like, if he was like a lifetime Yankee, I wouldn't be so interested in him. But, he ran to the Yankees, spent a year there. Let's pluck him away and let's have him play against the Yankees 13 times a year for us. I like the idea of that. But yeah, 180 million. If we're talking 5 years, I think Phantom. That's right where I was projecting. Like what would be for me, like because Vlad Guerrero is a $400 million contract, right? That's 10 years at $40 million. We're talking about half the years at 35 for a guy that put up a 7 WAR who can play outfield for you, center field or corner, and can also cover first base. And you're taking him away from a division opponent and now using him against that same opponent 13 times a year. I like that. And, yeah. He was with the Dodgers and won the series, but that was the COVID season, right, Chawa? That's what I was saying. Like, the COVID season, you got to put a little bit of an asterisk next to that, but still, it's experience, and he's been on winners. He knows what the winning mentality feels like, right? I think the only matter for Bellinger is that if he were offered similar money from other teams that might play in markets that are more attractive to him, or teams that have a better track record of winning, he might want to just go there instead. We might have to pay a little extra if he were to do it, or he would have to somehow buy into what we're doing to, decide to want to sign for us. But I would like to go after Bellinger. I would be fine with BW suggested signings, but knowing Elias, he will go for cheap alternatives and hope they work out. Well, I think he should be learning his lesson from this past season. Again, I am proposing a payroll that is still going to be safely under $200 million and closer to $150 million than $200 million, which puts us, right there in like the 12th to 15th ranked team in payroll, which, if you want to be a contender, but you're a mid-market team, that's where you need to be. We've got so much of our team still in arbitration years. They're not getting paid real money. Tyler O'Neill, now that, Eflin and, I think Eflin might have made 20. But yeah, I mean, like, O'Neill's making like 18 and a half. And then after that, who's our next highest paid player? It's like, it's nothing. We've got money. You had money to invest in this stupid shit you're looking at behind me, right, Baltimore? Or the scoreboard that's going up. All the things that don't matter to us real fans, right? We got money for that. Can we put the money in towards some players that can help us win, please? That would be great. Like, honestly, shoot for the freaking moon. But again, how do you address this with the upcoming potential lockout / strike for next season? I don't know. Maybe a guy like Ozuna is more realistic because you can give a 1-year deal to a prove-it deal or whatever, and whether or not it pans out doesn't matter because if we go into a lockout, his contract's up, he's done. If he did go after a Bellinger, paid $170-180 million for 5 years, and then in year 2, he's just sitting there making $35 million doing nothing, that's not going to make a lot of people happy, now is it? It's going to make him happy, but nobody in the organization. I don't know. I don't know how to handle anything. Craig Albernaz. Let's get back to this. I'm just going to go back to Twitter and see what's going on. It's nice to be back on the microphone again. For whatever reason, I've gotten used to this, and it sort of feels like home. I'm just seeing if there's anything else to give us a little bit of insight on this guy. So far, I am sort of rereading the same few talking points that I've already seen. Oh, not even, I mean, Chris Davis, that was like a 10-year deal, right? What was Chris Davis's contract? And yeah, and plus with Chris Davis, like, you just knew that, yeah, he had that ridiculous season, and then you give him a crazy contract. But Bellinger, way more established, way more dependable to not completely fall off a cliff like Chris Davis. 7 for 160. What Which, if the guy was good, that's not a terrible deal, but that's not how it worked out. But again, Angelos basically made the final call on giving that contract out, right? It just feels like when we were in the Angelos years, the one or two times we handed out a big contract that didn't really, I don't know. Tejada was a good free agent signing. That was a pretty big contract for the time. But yeah, Chris Davis, he's still in his 30s, by the way. Chris Davis could still be playing ball right now. Yeah. I'm still looking for something here. The Marlins and White Sox tried to hire Albernaz as manager last offseason, but he didn't covet those jobs. He interviewed with at least two other teams with a vacancy this offseason before landing on the Orioles as the right opportunity. All right, well, you know what? Let's talk about that. I like that. I like that Albernaz was given a chance by two teams who are arguably, in worse shape than us, and who are more desperate than us to find a manager that can, upgrade the team. But the fact that Albernaz was offered two jobs and turned them down because he didn't covet those jobs, like he just wasn't feeling it with teams like the Marlins and the White Sox, but the Orioles come knocking and he's like, okay, I like that. He is selective. He isn't going to just, I feel like Tony Mansolino would take any job offered to him in a heartbeat without any idea of what what sort of control he has over the team versus the GM and stuff. Like what his ultimate decision making, what his responsibilities are. I feel like Mansolino would just take anything. Jacob says, initial reaction to O's hiring Craig Albernaz. I've never heard of him until now. Can't tell if that's a positive or not, but he used to play ball, minors. I'm not the happiest, but at least it ain't Hyde or Mansolino. Let's see. Guardians Reddit seems pretty high on Albernaz. I think I'm sold. You? All right, I'm going to go into Guardians Reddit. Look out. I keep coming up with this photo of him having these red laser eyes. I'm not sure what that's about. Some kind of a meme. Okay, here you go. Craig Albernaz. I'm certainly one of those guys. I met Craig at my dad's wedding. Super nice guy. I saw him tip the bartender a $10 bill twice. All right. So he seems like a solid dude. Based on his playing and coaching career so far, I'd say we should be excited to have him here while we do. This is a Guardian fan that kind of knew that Albernaz was kind of working his way up the ladder here. The guy overachieves and doesn't stay somewhere long before getting a promotion. I have no real opinion on him here, as I haven't noticed anything really good or bad, but his career trajectory tells an impressive story. And that's exactly what I've come to conclude looking at this resume of his. He has for the last 10 years just been leveling up one year after the next. He's on a trajectory, okay? I guess this is our guy now. It's not official yet. Let's see. John Manuel says, Albernaz really is a rising star. Young, played, knows players, knows data, knows people. Humble dude who is secure in who he is. My favorite type of leader. He should do well. Okay. I have no idea who you are, dude, but I'm digging your take. Appreciate it. Wow, here's somebody back on October 4th who said, I'm absolutely ecstatic for any newly hired manager that isn't Craig Albernaz. Ouch. All right. I'm not finding a whole lot here. Ryan Wormelli says, I definitely prefer a manager with experience, but I obviously am not going to pretend to know a single thing about Albernaz. Here's hoping he's in Baltimore for the next 30 years. What if he were, folks? What if this was the right guy? What if this was our next Earl? We don't know, but we can hope. I just wish I could see like footage of this guy, like coaching somebody up in the middle of a ball game or something. I just want to see something. Plus Albernaz, if he's a former catcher, hopefully he's got some mentoring that he can do with Adley. Adley's really got to turn it around, man. He has got to turn it around next season. I mean, he legit had a worse season than like Alex Jackson. If you break it down to like game by game performance. Yeah, there really isn't a whole lot of video on Albernaz. There will be, though. I gotta give me one more sec. Blow my nose one more time, and then I'm getting out of here. Okay. Again, dealing with some sinus crap. Be right back. All right. Okay. Okay. Where's missing? Oh, there. Okay. By the way, that's an impression of Peter Falk from Princess Bride at the end of the movie when he's about to leave the little boy's room after reading the book and he can't find his glasses. He's like, okay. Right. Where were we? Albernaz. Charm City chat? Zach Gallen. I'm not big on Gallen. I feel like Gallen's gotten progressively a little bit not as good from year to year. And I don't like the trajectory he's on. And I don't know if we have the kind of coaching to get him back to his all-star self. But this past year wasn't very good, was it, for Gallen? Let's look at the numbers. Let's go to the videotape. He is coming off a season where he put up an ERA of, where is it? Where the hell is it? I'm seeing ERA plus before I just see plain old ERA. Come on. Oh, there it is. Yeah, 4.83, man. 4.83 ERA. Here's the last 4 seasons. 2.5. 2.54 ERA. Then went to 3.47 the next year, 3.65 last year, and now this year up to 4.83. He gave up 31 home runs this season. The most he had ever given up before that was 22, and that was the only other season he gave up as many as 20. The strikeout numbers are down. He had 220 strikeouts. That 2023 season, he was an all-star. He went 17-9, pitched 210 innings. And the year before that was when he had that tiny ERA of 2.5. Since then, the last 2 years, not as good, especially this year. So, yeah, I'm not that big on Gallen, honestly. Unless, no, I'm still. The thing is, I would have to, if I'm building like a rotation, and if I'm looking at Gallen, he would be like maybe a 3-4. But I don't think the Orioles right now should be looking for a 3-4. They need a like 1A, 1B, or high 2, somebody to partner with Rogers or be the opening day guy. Rogers number 2. I don't know. I don't think Gallen is that guy. That's just my opinion. That's okay. Bad first half, but second half was back to form. Well, damn, how bad was the first half if he still ends with an ERA close to 5? That first half must have been awful. And what if he repeats that pattern? What if we get another Charlie Morton where he just absolutely craps the bed through the first 10 starts, and then by the time he figures it out, we're out of contention? Because I don't know if you noticed, but that's kind of what happened to the Diamondbacks this season. They were supposed to be a contender. I know Burns went down, but between that and Gallen having a bad first half, their season was kind of decided the ways ours was by just having too crappy of a first half. I don't want Zach Gallen. Mike Trout would be my best attempt to get a DH. Now, I know the Angels are a terrible organization, and I don't think anybody really wants to play for them, but God, I kind of feel like Trout should just be an Angel for life. You know? I don't know. I like to see players like that not move to another team at this stage of their career. Mike Trout on the Orioles. I don't know. It feels like when the Wizards got Jordan, you know, like, or are we just getting this guy because he used to be great? Plus, we've already, the injury, the injury bug for him is we've already got Tyler O'Neill, Would Dylan Cease be bad? It wouldn't be bad. It would just be pricey. I think he's going to want a lot of years. Again, I feel like this is why, we need a big bat and we need a big arm. We need both of those things. And I don't care how we do it, but it would make the most sense to me, I feel, that one of those has to be acquired through a trade to keep the prices down. And then the other, you can go out in the free agency and get the best guy you can get for that. Looking at who's available for the positions we're trying to fill, maybe a starting pitcher through a free agency would be easier than finding like a right-handed outfielder bat. Because the only right-handed outfielder bat that interests me on the free agent market, at least among domestic players, I think there's a guy or two coming out of Japan, but I don't know much about them to have an opinion, or I don't even know if they're right-handed or what. But the point is, Ramon Laureano. If Laureano and the Padres didn't exercise an option to keep him there, although I feel like the Padres would be smart in keeping him because I feel like what he's getting paid is less than what he's worth. But I'd love to have Laureano back if he were made available. Other than that, I don't see a whole lot of right-handed hitting outfield bats that are, dynamic enough to put like in the middle of the order and really help, bolster the offense all around. And maybe finding that bat through trade is easier and then going through free agency for the pitcher. But I don't think you can go to free agency for both, because then you're just spending money that you just realistically know the Orioles aren't going to spend, right? So, yeah, Phantom again, O'Neill type of situation. You just don't want that. You can't afford to do that. Just imagine the fallout if we sign Trout and like 2 weeks into his Orioles career, he's out with some, nagging injury that keeps him out for a few weeks. It's just, yeah, you can't have a repeat. Same position, same side of the plate hit. Like we already have Mike Trout. It's not as good as Trout, but I feel like we already have him. A discount version. So to add him, I think I wouldn't do that. But you guys want to take a quick look at the upcoming free agent list? Let's take a look. 20 free agent list. Sorry, folks. My sinuses are terrible. Looking at outfielders in particular, right-handed bat. Again, you got left field, Gurriel, 32 years old. I'm not very high on him. Rob Refsnyder, 35, no way. Miguel Andujar, I've heard some people say him, but defensively, that doesn't cut it for me. Austin Hayes, I don't think that's going to solve our problems. Winker, left-handed. Conforto, left-handed. Mark Cannis, 37. Tommy Pham, are you kidding me? So nothing there. Center field, again, I'm looking at just right-handed bats. Harrison Bader, good defensive player. There's an option there, so it's not even certain he'd be leaving his. Where's he at? Who's Bader on? He's on the Phillies this year, I think, right? Trent Grisham, left-handed. Ced Mullins, left-handed. Luis Robert, right-handed bat. I mean, he showed promise early in his career that he can be that kind of guy, but it's just been too many bad years with the worst team in baseball. I don't want to touch him. Michael A. Taylor, forget about it. He's old. And, yeah, these guys. And then right field, Laureano. Again, that's the name that jumps out to me. That's it. You got Kyle Tucker, Mike Yastrzemski, Max Kepler. They're all left-handed. Marte's 37. You don't want that. Grichuk is strictly a platoon guy, 34, can only hit lefties. You already got O'Neill to do that. So for me, you do one of two things. You just get that right-handed bat as your DH and you go for Marcell Ozuna for like a 1-year deal with maybe an option for a second year. You give him like $25 million, $22 million, maybe. I don't know. He's coming off a down year. Could be just like $20 million. I say just, but if this guy can give you a 900 plus OPS, that's gonna justify his salary. All right. So pitchers that are available through free agency, you do have Dylan Cease. He put up an 8.1 WAR. That's the second highest of those available to Chris Sale, but he's also only 30. Sale's 37. I feel like Dylan Cease is probably going to demand the biggest contract out of all of these guys. So that to me, like, just immediately takes him off of our radar because it's going to be a bidding war between the teams with the biggest payrolls to go get a guy like that. He's still only 30. He's got Cy Young potential in him. I just don't see us able to. Framber Valdez, I feel like, has fallen off the radar after some stunts he pulled with the Astros. Ranger Suarez, I think, is the first guy on this list that I'm interested in. Left-hander, 30 years old, had a really solid season and past few seasons with the Phillies. And I just feel like he's always kind of been under the radar, which always helps with price tags. He doesn't have that kind of hype that a pitcher that's putting up the numbers he has usually would merit. So I wouldn't mind pursuing a guy like Ranger Suarez. Jack Flaherty, just, we tried it once. It didn't work. I don't want to try again. Freddie Peralta, There's a club option. Don't know yet if he's going to stick with the Brewers, but if he didn't, that's a name I wouldn't mind talking about. Peralta. Nick Martinez, no. Chris Bassett, no. Michael King, mutual option, probably not. Imanaga, probably not. Zach Gallen, there's his name. Merrill Kelly, no. Zach Littell. Littell, not sexy, but pretty solid numbers, but definitely not a top of the rotation guy. And then it just gets to middle to back end of the rotation names at this stage. Sonny Gray. If you're talking about trading for an arm and for a guy that might only be here for a year or two, but has a contract, let me look at Sonny Gray's contract, because I feel like the Cardinals would be willing to eat a significant portion of the contract. And I don't think the Orioles would have to give up a ton in terms of prospects to get Sonny Gray. So he's making $25 million a year. Actually, I guess it's an escalating. He's making $35 million. Oh, okay. So in 2027, he is set to make $30 million, and and it's his final year. So it'd basically be a 1-year deal, and I feel like we wouldn't have to give up a lot. I wouldn't mind getting Sonny Gray, knowing that he's not going to be the long-term solution, ace of the rotation guy, but he could be the 2026 ace of the rotation guy. Sonny Gray, just throwing that out there. Do you trust Sammy enough to trade Adley for an arm? Not really. Not really. I think Basayo has a lot to do defensively as a catcher. A lot. But I also think Adley's got some room to improve as well. I feel like he's not as good defensively as he was his first couple of seasons. But again, I feel like that's going to come down more to coaching than the players themselves. They got to coach these players back up. Adley is better than he's been, offensively and defensively. I don't know what the hell happened. But maybe a man named Craig Albernaz can help figure this out for us. Yeah. The thing is, if you were to trade Adley and Basayo is still showing next year, and again, remember, folks, Basayo is going to start 2026, 20 years old or 21? He just turned 21, okay, in August. So, yeah, he'll basically be playing his age 21 season next year. First full season, assuming he makes the team out of spring and all that. The thing is, if Basayo didn't work out, then we'd really be, well, maybe. Again, if Adley doesn't improve, then it really doesn't matter, right? If we traded him or not, because if he stuck around without improving, he's putting up backup catcher numbers offensively for us. And I don't know. Maybe Basayo's presence will, if they make some sort of a healthy competition between these guys, it'll motivate these guys. I don't know. God, my nose is running again. How long have I been on? Over an hour already? I'm insane. And I haven't even gotten to 100 total views. It was like 6 people here. All right, I'm going to go. It was nice to get back on the air and talk some Orioles for a minute. It looks like Craig Albernaz is our new manager. I'm going to give it one more search in the old Twitter here and see what pops up. Hey, Chilo. Thank you. I haven't quite signed off yet. Yeah, that's the number one thing. And I think we're going to find that out relatively early, Chawa, is like, how much is Albernaz going to put his own thumbprint on this team, or how much is he gonna just sort of be a yes man, a Mansolino type that is just gonna kind of follow out the orders of the front office without any of it? You know what I mean? Is the front office gonna tell him, hey man, you gotta treat Jackson Holiday like fragile, he's like a Fabergé egg. He's very, very important, and we don't want to upset him. We don't want to reprimand him too much. No. If he needs to be reprimanded, I want a manager in there that isn't afraid to do it with any of our players. Now, ideally, I want everybody buying into what the manager is trying to, trying to get his team, in a direction, and everybody's behind it. And there isn't any animosity, and everybody's getting along in the clubhouse. And the chemistry that we saw with this team a couple of years back returns. And again, if the management has improved and the chemistry has returned and the coaching staff has been upgraded so that our offense gets back to the form we looked at from a couple of years ago, I think we can turn this thing around. And if at the very minimum, compete for a wild card spot next year and play with a winning record. I don't know if we're going to immediately get back to that 91 to 100 win window of those 23-24 seasons, because we did take a giant step backward. I don't know, but Albernaz. I got to get used to this name. Escape from Albernaz. I'm already thinking of puns. You got to go with Alcatraz, right? It says hired now. This is Talking Baseball. They have him as hired per Jeff Passan. Okay, I see. They put in a little disclaimer there in fine print. So it's still not official, but Jeff Passan is saying it's a done deal. But that's pretty funny that they put that little disclaimer in there. All right, guys. I'm sure we'll have some more discussions about Albernaz in the coming days. If this is our next guy and they make it official here in the next 24 hours or so, then I hope, the World Series is going to be over. Free agency is going to start, 5 days after that? I think players have 5 days to negotiate exclusively with the teams that they're running out of contract with. But yeah, we could be theoretically a week to 10 days away from hot stove time. Now that we've found the manager, now it's time to address the coaching staff, I would think, and then start going after players through free agency and trade. It's all starting now, it would appear, with Albernaz. All right, I'm going to sign off. I don't know if I've really given anything of any value with this. I'm kind of just giving you my my reaction. I'll say kind of what one of these other folks said on Twitter, which is, I'm not going to pretend to know a whole lot about the dude, but I have learned a whole lot about here in the past couple of hours. And, I hope this works out. I have to feel optimistic. Right? Phantom, Chawa, Chilo, Noah, anybody feeling optimistic about this hire? Could it be worse than what we had last year? I don't think so. Again, it's just the first big domino with a lot more dominoes to go here. We need a new hitting coach. If you're telling me Cody Ashley is the hitting coach in 2026, then no other addition or whatever is going to matter. Because clearly our hitting approach last year was awful. Chilo says it can't be worse, so he's optimistic. Okay. It could be. Phantom says it could be worse. But I'm afraid it could be better and that we're pulling the trigger too soon. On taking Albernaz versus another managerial option? Did you want Service? Did you want Pujols? Did you want who did you want? Potential MLB managers. What is the list here? Haven't interviewed enough guys. Well, here are the guys that, like, Bob Melvin is now out of a job. Did you Skip Schumacher, Rocco Baldelli, Snitker from the Braves, Ron Washington, who I don't want to have anything to do with. I mean, I'm not blaming Ron for how bad the Angels organization has gone in the last several years, but it doesn't seem like his experience was able to help that team. You wanted me as manager, but Elias, how do you know he never called? What if I just turned him down? Stephen Vogt, Mark DeRosa. Who's this Brandon Hind guy? John Schneider. How is he on the list? He's currently managing the World Series playing Blue Jays. Maybe he runs out of contract? All right. Yeah, I mean, you guys are saying you'd like to see more interviews, but I got to be honest. I mean, I've been saying this now, other than like a Bruce Bochy type, I'm not going to pretend if we're going after a young sort of new guy on the block, how can I sit here and pretend like I know who the best pick is? Otherwise, we're looking at guys that, I'm not all that excited about. Rocco Baldelli, maybe. I have seen Baldelli like be animated in the Twins dugout and look like he's really 100% in, but and they really did him wrong with the way they gutted that team. I mean, you thought we got gutted at the trade deadline? The Twins really got gutted. Yeah, the Nationals are interviewing Brandon Hyde. That is something that I have heard, and that would be interesting. All right, I need to go because my sinuses are now at the point where too much has built up, and I need to let loose. Hey, thanks for hanging out, folks. Listen, I can't say probably. You may have seen a gaming test video put out on this channel a couple of days back. You might see more. I'm waiting on a capture card, which is a piece of hardware that apparently is going to allow me to stream through my streaming software and actually set up events rather than the current setup that you saw in that test, which would just start me, being live on stream without any event announced, without any setup, without any description, without any thumbnail, and you need all that stuff. So I'm waiting on this capture card, and then I got to figure out how to run things through the streaming software, and then hopefully within a week I'm able to start this gaming thing. Okay, be on the lookout for that. I hope we enjoy it, and I hope my sinuses clear up at least by then, because I can't play any video games right now. From the neck up, I'm a mess. All right. Thanks, folks. Thanks for hanging out here in the exclusive Orioles club level here. Yeah, welcome to Baltimore. We think Craig Albernaz. Get used to it. All right. Until next time, folks, this has been the Birdwatcher, and I'll chirp at you later. See you, folks. Wait a minute. Is the hat here? Take care. Baltimore. All right. See ya.